Hello, lawn mowing people. What I'm going to talk about today is whether you should employ somebody in your lawn mowing business and what I've found out about employing people myself in my own business. So I'm just going to go through it here. Should you employ somebody? This is what you're looking like when when you're reading their resume. and The first thing you've got to ask yourself is, will your turnover allow you to employ somebody? You've got to be turning over enough money to take them on. And for the best chance of success, you need to be working more than 40 hours a week. You can take someone on when you're working just above 30, but 40 hours is better because then you've got a reasonable amount of work for both of you. Now, the other thing is that your workload is not going to be chopped in half by any means. It's going to decrease by 33%, which will allow you to grow your business more. Now, there's a couple of different reasons why you'd employ somebody. Reason number one is because you fill up and you're working 40 hours a week. Now, if you're hiring someone to grow your income, this could be a bad idea because if you're working 40 hours a week and you hire a worker, then you'll find that you're now doing 30 hours a week, not a 20-hour week. So what happened? Let's go into this. You thought that one person equals 40 hours, so two people should equal 20 hours. Simple arithmetic, right? Well, no, it's not. For some reason, and I've never been able to figure out why, probably something to do with physics, two people working together will go only 33% faster than one. I've employed a lot of people over the years, and it happens every time. And the news gets worse. A new worker is going to cost you, you guessed it, 33% of the turnover. And you could, if you're not careful, be financially no better off than you were when you started, just doing more lawns. So to be honest, with two people, when I see two people working on one vehicle, I think there's only one of four things it can mean. The first thing is that they haven't done their sums. The second one is that they have done their sums, but they don't care. And the other one is that they share the same income. So it could be a husband and wife, or something like that. And the fourth reason is that they're working on bigger things, and this is a temporary solution. Now, reason number two for employing somebody is that you're working a 40-hour week and you hire someone to work with you so you can train them to go out in another vehicle. This is what we've found. Two workers working together at $20 an hour for 40 hours is going to cost you about $1,600. These are just ballpark figures, by the way, to make it easy, not actually what you'll be paying them. Lawns mowed is going to be around about $3,500 for if you're really, really lucky and if you guys are doing really well. Your expenses are going to be about 40% of turnover, so it's going to be about $1,400. Your profit on those two workers is going to be $500, $250 a week for each worker. Hardly worth it, because remember that you've got to take other things out of here as well, such as holiday pay and ACC. So yeah, not the greatest. Now, two workers, two vehicles. Now, this is, see, that's not how it's spelled, but we'll just ignore this. Obviously, my spell check is not working very well. Two workers, two vans, because that's what we use. At $20 an hour, 40 hours, $1,600. You're still paying them the same money. Lawns mowed, they can do 2.5K each, $5,000. Expenses $2,000. Profit $1,400. Way better. I'll leave you to decide on which is the best plan of action for you. It's a bit of a tightrope, as you can see. Now, I'll just run through the pros and cons of hiring. These are some good things about bringing on a worker. Your income does grow. New employees can bring new skills. If you bring somebody that's really, really good at hedges and you don't do them, then there's a whole new avenue for you to explore. You can take time off, technically. That's, maybe a little bit harder than it sounds. These are all great reasons to hire somebody. A few of the cons. It can be hard to find good employees. Management will take some time. It's a commitment. You're going to have to pay that guy day in, day out. Your employees will never feel the same way about your business as you do. Now, the hiring process, I'll quickly run through the hiring process here. You can find more detailed information here. That's if you're based in New Zealand. This is the Inland Revenue site, and this will basically tell you everything you need to know about employing staff in New Zealand. So the hiring process, first you've got to write your ad, state the position, the hours, the pay rate, and tell them what experience they need and what information you want them to handle with their application. You need to advertise. Now, there's plenty of free places to advertise, and there's places like TradeMe as well that you can advertise for workers. We find that some of the best employees that we found came through referrals with guys that were already working for us. And then, of course, there's free job boards as well, and there's plenty of them around. I'm sure you can find them. Screen applications. So go through all your applications and knock off the guys that say, oh, I can do this job because I've mowed my own lawns for 20 years. That's not a qualification. You can't be a chef in a restaurant and have your qualification as I cook at home for 20 years. But apparently people think that if they mow their lawns at home, that makes them qualified to go out and mow other people's lawns. So screen your applicants. When you do the interview, meet up with the applicants. I used to tell them not to dress up because as soon as they arrived, I've already asked them how they are with the weed eater. And one of the things that I would do is I'd give them the weed eater and I'd tell them to go out and weed eat and have a look and see how good they did. Because on the job application, I asked them to rate their weed eating skills out of 10. And it also allowed me to, one, check out their skills. Secondly, see whether they're exaggerating or not. See how honest they were, because that also helps. Now, another thing you want to do is background checks. You can do that with the Department of Justice, or you can use a company. There's a company here, CV Check. This is New Zealand. You'd have your own companies in your neck of the woods. Send the successful applicant a job offer, and this should cover the job descriptions, expectations, standard performance, and this is going to give you something that you'll have if things go wrong. And if the offer is accepted, then you will need to have the appropriate legal papers ready before they begin. Now, this is in New Zealand. In New Zealand, your employment contract is non-valid if they start work before they sign it. So do not let someone start work without signing a work agreement. Just don't do it. Right, this is another thing that really needs talking about, hiring friends and family. I know people that have successfully done this. However, although it worked for them, it didn't work very well for me. Now, if you're going to employ a family member, do this simple exercise. Imagine that you've employed them and imagine that things haven't worked out. Worse than that, imagine now you're in a position where you're going to have to fire them. How do you think this is going to go? What do you think their reaction will be? How do you think the fallout will affect your personal life? Such as what happens if you've got to attend a wedding in a month's time and they're going to be there? How will it change the family and friends dynamic in the future? Just have a think about that before you go employing somebody. And to be honest, after doing it myself, I wouldn't do it again. Now, hiring experience versus a cheap hire. 2 lines of thought on that subject. Now, if you hire experienced workers, you'll have to pay them more, but you'll have to do less training, in theory. Now, you may hire experienced workers that weren't trained very well, and then you'll have to untrain them. And untraining people is a lot harder than actually training people. It's way harder. And if someone's learned bad habits, it's really, really hard to get them out of those bad habits. Now, taking on untrained workers, this is what we ended up doing at the end of the day. We took on inexperienced workers and we taught them how to do the job. The only thing that you need with this is you need to have proper training systems in place if you want to get good results. And I'm sure you've heard of the saying, rubbish in, rubbish out. You want to train them well. Now, the other thing is, should you employ part-time or full-time? Part-time's great because you get a bit of flexibility and you can work them around your schedule. And part-time's great, but the problem about part-time is your workers aren't going to be very loyal because it's only a part-time job, unless that's specifically what they want. Now, full-time, you get a lot more of a commitment because it has to be 40 hours a week. The problem with working them full-time and working them 40 hours a week is if they're sick, then you've got to find someone to fill that gap, or if they're taking holidays, you need someone to fill that gap. And that was what we had problems with, because some days I'd have something planned, I'd have a few jobs to look at and some people to talk to, and one of the guys wouldn't be able to work that day, and then I'd be out mowing lawns instead. Now, one way around this is we actually had all of our guys working a 30-hour work week, which is pretty much a full-time work week, but we used to have that 10 hours flexi time. So if one of the other guys didn't turn up, we could actually just increase everybody's hours by a couple of hours in that day, and they'd catch up with all the work. And that's one way of doing it, but you still got to work around the holidays. So that's basically all I've got to say about working with people. Uh, it's a bit hit and miss, and it really depends what you're aiming for. So anyway, if you want to learn more about building a lawn mowing business, you can go to the Lawn Mowing 101 membership 7-day free trial. There's a link below this video. And yeah, just get out there, mow lawns, have fun, and happy lawn mowing, people.